Here's a question. Will believers in the intermediate heaven experience sorrow for what is happening on earth, especially regarding their families on earth? Good thing about this is there's about 4 of you that have very similar questions. And one of the things that I would say is that God in heaven experiences sorrow for his suffering people on earth. We see this in Exodus about God's deep concern for the people of Israel, what they're going through. So sorrow is not utterly incompatible with the present heaven. When Jesus says to Paul, when he's still Saul, 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 why are you persecuting me? Well, he was persecuting God's people, but Jesus was taking it personally. And so the heart of God, heavy for the martyrs who are in heaven now, crying out, how long, O Lord, before you bring punishment on those who murdered us, before you bring justice? So the promise for no more sorrow, no more death is in the world where there is no more sin. That promise comes in Revelation 21:4. That is in the new heavens and the new earth, not the present heaven where there is sorrow, because God sorrows. You see some, at least, sense of recognition, at least, of sin and evil and suffering in the world from the martyrs. Now, are people in heaven happier than people on earth? Absolutely. To depart and be with Christ, the perspective-giving nature of that, is great. But I think a lot of people argue the wrong way because they say, well, no one in heaven could possibly know what's going on down on earth because they'd be overwhelmed with sorrow. But God's in heaven. He's not overwhelmed by sorrow. God is a happy God. Enter into your master's happiness. The angels can be happy even though they see the sin on earth. So don't think that ignorance is this virtue that God must place upon us so that we're out of touch with the realities of earth. The unfolding drama of redemption is going on down here on earth. Now, then somebody else asked, and related to that, well, can people in heaven really see what's going on down on earth? Well, we know the martyrs are asking the question, how long, O Lord, before you bring judgment? They're not asking, Lord, have you yet brought judgment down there on earth on these people? No. How long before you do? Meaning they know he hasn't. See, the implication is they know what's going on. And they're saying, well, why haven't you yet brought judgment? So there's knowledge. Luke 15 is an example of a passage where you have the lost coins and the lost sheep. And twice in Luke 15, before it gets to the parable of the lost son, the prodigal son, twice it says there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of heaven whenever a sinner repents. Now, it's very interesting, that language, because it would have been very easy for Jesus to say, and the angels rejoice, the angels in heaven rejoice every time a sinner repents, but that's not what he says. He says there's rejoicing in the presence of the angels. Well, God's in the presence of the angels. God's everywhere else too. God's rejoicing. But who else is living in the presence of the angels? The people of God who have died and gone to be with the Lord. So there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels, not only by the angels, but in the presence of the angels, presumably by the people of God. And many of those people will have prayed for this person who has repented and come to faith. So that would be an example of people in heaven knowing what's going on down on earth. Now, in that case, knowing a very good thing that's happened on earth. But could people in heaven have known when that person wasn't loving Jesus and following Jesus? Could people in heaven have prayed for the person on earth? Yes, by all means. I mean, that's really what the martyrs are doing. I mean, in a sense, they're interceding for all those who are suffering under the persecutors. Lord, bring judgment on them so that other people don't suffer. That's a way of of prayer. Do not get this confused. We're not talking about us praying to the saints in heaven. That's a totally different thing. There's only one mediator between God and men, the man Jesus Christ. You only pray to him. You don't pray to saints in heaven. Okay? But the question is, do the saints in heaven pray for us? And that, I think, is a greater possibility. Certainly to the extent that they see what's going on, why wouldn't they? I mean, righteous people who love God, pray and they intercede for those in need. So righteous people in heaven would be more effective in their prayer.